So there we go. Right, good to see you. It's been. That used to fit me so well as well. Yeah. You get one in every church, don't you? We've moved in when I retired from Lawrence Weston, because as you probably know, I was trained by that lovely gentleman there. And when I left Lawrence Weston, I went to one of the Woodlands family of churches. There's 8 of them now. And we went to a new one, which is just down the road, literally, from where I lived, called Branch. And so was it last year? There's a church in Hembury, a lovely church. And the leader of that church was a very good friend of mine. And we used to go for a walk every 3 or 4 months and talk. Problems, God, church. And then about October time, he phoned me up and said, Steve, come down, see me. I thought it was for a cup of tea. And when I went in, I could see something was wrong. And he said, I got terminal cancer. I said, I'll be down next week. He said, no, they're taking me to Wales to try and relax and get some strength back. I said, well, the Tuesday after, I'll get hold of you. And the Tuesday after, I texted him, and I said, are you around? Is it possible to come and visit you? And he wrote back, I'm in hospital, Steve. Last chance saloon. Hours later, I had a phone call that he had died. Now that church then contacted Branch, our church. I'm not a leader, not me, no, the leaders in Branch. And they said, we've got a church, but no leaders. And you've got leaders, but no church. We met in various buildings. And so we joined together. And I go now to this church in Hembury, and it's lovely. It's a lovely church and a lovely people. We're quite full now, but one of the things I love about it, it's got a spiral. I got to do this. You can't talk about a spiral staircase until you do that. And it's got a spiral staircase leading to a lovely cafe at the top. Now this is leading somewhere. One of the leaders is Alice, and most of you probably will know her from the TV. She's a reporter on Points West. She's got long black hair. And they always say Alice Bouverie, which is her name. So long black hair. So she's a producer and a reporter on Points West. And she organized an evening of prayer. And we all went along, but we didn't go like in one place. We went to various places. There's rooms and offices, and downstairs, a massive hall for children. And so there's quite a few in there. I went up the spiral staircase to the cafe and sat in the cafe. And there's about 4, 5, 6 of us up there. And I didn't pray with anybody. I just by myself. And I said, Lord, what do I pray about? And I like to thank God, because we ask him all the time for things. So I spent a few minutes just saying, Lord, thank you for you. Thank you that you, do you know, Lord, what can I pray for that I haven't prayed for? Arthur. And I prayed for Arthur. And I hadn't seen him 50 years. But when I was a teenager, Arthur and I did everything together. This is in my sermon, by the way. I'm taking it out of the sermon, doing it now. We did everything together. Went on holiday together. Went to cinema together. When he had a girlfriend, I had to sit in the front of my car and wait for him to finish in the back of the back seat. And Steve, can you bring your car on Saturday? I said, yes. He said, I got a girlfriend. I said, oh, not again. And then gradually he fell away from the Lord, drifted away. And I started praying for him. But after about maybe 5 or 6 years, my prayers stopped as well. And now I'm in the cafe, and I suddenly remember Arthur, and I said, Lord, where is he? What's he doing? I'm going to pray for him now, Lord. Every Thursday morning, there are 4 of us that meet together. We were either this high or teenagers together, and we lost contact with each other over the years. About 5 years ago, by strange coincidences, we all met up again. Now, every Thursday morning, we meet in Sea Mills and have a cup of coffee together. Every Thursday morning. This, not last Thursday, the Thursday before, I turned up and there were 4 there. There should have only been 3. Me, the 4th. And there was 4 there. Me, the 5th. I said, who's this? And I didn't recognize him. And as I went up to shake his hand, he said, Steve, have you still got an Isabella car? How do you know that I used to, Arthur? And he said, yes. Now, remember that, because what I want to talk about I don't read the Bible masses of pictures and chapters and verses. Some people, like, in 1 year, I've read the whole Bible in 1 year. And, okay, that's good. My wife has done it. Don't you buy a Bible every year, Duncan? Or you used to? I know he loves Matthew Henry. Yes, yes, Matthew Henry. I don't do that. When I took people to Israel and Jordan, and you have to taste the Bible. You have to feel the smell of what's going on, the heat of the day. Why did Jesus say that? Why then? And so I don't read huge chapters. I read bits. And I went, and this is the story. This is how I got to this point. I attended a lecture by a man who's one of Great Britain's forestry commissioners. He's a committed Christian. And he talked about the trees in the Bible. Oh, this is interesting. So very quickly, this is an interesting bit, not my sermon. But he said, the sycamore tree, not sycamore tree, which there is in Great Britain with those spiral things coming down, sycamore tree, a sycamore fig. When Zacchaeus climbed the sycamore tree, he did something extraordinary. You see, the sycamore fig, that's what it says in the Bible, the sycamore fig, an extraordinary tree that it produces these little fruits, but they're no good, really. Nobody really eats them except the shepherds. In the wintertime, the shepherds bring the flock down because it's too cold, too wet, too windy up there, and they bring them down, and they go on the sycamore tree and pick these fruits, make a little cut in them, soak them in olive oil, and they become sweeter after an hour or two, and they eat those, a tasty little treat. Everybody else goes to McDonald's or M&S. Only the shepherds would dare go and eat. When Zacchaeus got into the sycamore tree, this high-ranking tax collector became a lowly pauper shepherd. But he wanted to see Jesus. And that's why Jesus took time for him, because Zacchaeus completely ruined his reputation. Do you understand? A shepherd. So I thought, this is good. So then I started reading bits in the Bible about trees, and I came to this section here. But I stopped because there were things in this passage that I didn't understand. And days went by, and I'm still thinking about it. I go down streets and I'm praying. What does that mean? Why put that in the Bible? It's of no consequence. But it must be. And here's the thing, that he entered the temple and looked everywhere. And I believe that's what he did do. I believe that when Jesus went into the temple, the tables and the selling and the money and that was the next day. This day, he just looked everywhere. So I believe he opened doors. What was in this room? I believe he went upstairs. What's up there? What's going on? I believe he went to the basements. He looked everywhere. The Bible doesn't tell us what he said. It's just that he went in, he looked everywhere and went to Bethany. Mary and Martha lived at Bethany. The next day he comes out. That puzzled me. He looked everywhere. The next day he comes out and he's hungry. And that puzzled me. He went to Mary and Martha's. What? They didn't have any food? He didn't eat? They wouldn't look. Of course they did. Of course they had food. For Jesus, doesn't make sense. And then I read a passage in Psalms. And it said this, and I said, this is you and me. When it happens to us, this is you and me. My heart has been smitten like grass and has withered away. Indeed, I have forgotten to eat my bread. I said, hang on. Jesus was hungry because he didn't want to eat. Something in that temple had disturbed him, and he didn't want to eat. We've all been in these situations, haven't we? I don't know what they are, but some things in life, and we don't feel like eating. That's what happened to Jesus. So what was it in the temple that disturbed him? And the answer is in the fig tree. You wanted fruit, but there were only leaves. What did he want in the temple? Spiritual life, but there was only leaves. There was a lot of noise in the temple, but no one was praying. A lot of talking, but no one was worshiping. Perhaps they were in little groups talking about various things, but no one was asking questions about God. I say that because I attended a lecture by a Messianic Jew, and he said in Jewish culture, if you want to learn, you ask questions. So, well, that makes sense, because Jesus did when he was 12 years old. But in that temple on that day, no one was debating God. No one was showing love to God. No one was lifting him up. It was all leaves. You could look at the temple. My goodness. Beautiful. Gold gilt everywhere. Shiny. But there's no fruit there. So that's why I mentioned about Arthur. Because I want fruit. No, I'm not saying that Arthur has come back to God and is now loving God and is a committed Christian. And no, not at all. All I know is I prayed. 2 weeks later, I thought, I'm going to do that again, Lord. I want to pray and see an answer to prayer within 2 weeks. It might take 3 or 4, but you know what I'm saying, yeah? I don't want to be leaves. Church minister told me some while ago now that a man came into church and he had a rough sort of character, never been before. But on that morning, he came into church and went up to the minister at the end and he said, look, I've had enough of my life. He said, what do I do to become a Christian? And the minister led him to the Lord. He asked Jesus into his life. And after that, moments after that, he said to the minister, I just want you to know, he said, I'll be here next week. Oh, yeah, I said, I'll be here next week. But it's my hobby to go to the cinema every Sunday evening. So I'll be going tonight. But I'll be here next Sunday morning. And the minister said, well, what do you watch? He said, well, anything that's on. You don't choose? He said, no, I go every Sunday night. He said, who'd you go with? He said, no one. He said, well, what if it's a bad film? He said, I still go. The minister said, look, do me a favor. tonight when you go, buy 2 tickets. He said, I only go by myself. Buy 2 tickets and ask the Lord Jesus to go with you. The following Sunday, after the meeting in the morning, the minister approached the man. He said, did you go last? He said, yeah, I did. He said, did you buy 2 tickets? He said, yeah, I did. Did you take the Lord Jesus? He said, I did. He said, what did Jesus think of the film? He said, I don't know. We both left after 10 minutes. There has to be fruit. Jesus can look into our lives, look at everything, and see fruit, not just leaves. For those watching, there's a clock up there, and I just want to make sure I'm not going over time. Still got a couple of hours. I'm not sure if one or two of you know this, but I'll just do it again. Look, I'm looking at fruit, things that are not just leaves. Branch went away, our church branch went away down in the Quantocks, lovely place, with wooden lodges all the way around. And so we went away for the weekend. And on the last day, on the Sunday, just before we were leaving, we had a big meeting together. And a song was played that I've never sung before. I don't know if you know it. I'll sing a little louder. Sing a little louder. And we sang that, and I said, oh, lovely. I really enjoyed it. What's going on? Oh, no. And there on the side, this lady, her name is Anne, she was walking, but Anne doesn't say anything. She's too frightened. Everybody else has better things to say than Anne. She won't talk about the scriptures because what she has to say is probably rubbish. And we're all criticizing. So she never speaks. Doesn't pray. And there she is walking out. And I thought, what on earth has happened here? Something major has happened. And I was a little scared. And she got out to the front. We only had one guitarist at that. And she stood by him and he gave her the microphone. And she said, about 2 weeks ago, you were all worshiping. And some of you stood up. She said, I can't do that. If we all stand up, but not in the middle. And some of you put your hands up in the air. She said, I can't do that. Everyone will look at me. And some of you were singing and some in harmony and all sorts of, I can't do it. And she said, I prayed and I said, Lord, I'm sorry. And she said, I just felt 2 things come into my heart. I've never heard that language from Anne before. 2 things went into my heart. She said, and she went, number 1, I just felt God say, it's all right, Anne. I love you. And then she said, I heard this. And I wrote it down in my Bible. Sing a little louder. And we just sang. And the place, there was a murmur, so we all went, oh, like that. And 1 or 2 crying. And I was sort of angry, really, because I went up to Anne afterwards. I've known her for years and years and years. And I went up to Anne afterwards and I said, Anne, don't you ever keep your mouth shut again. I said, that is beautiful. I said, that had done me good. And she has been talking and saying things about the Bible and praying. It's been really good. Fruit. If she'd have gone out the front and said, oh yeah, I love God, yeah, that's just leaves. But there was fruit. So I just want to say, I'm closing, but it disturbed me that Jesus looked around everywhere and there was nothing. No one praising God. No one loving him. no one learning about him. So this morning was good, because I thought, or I felt, it wasn't leaves. May the Lord bless you that you come day by day and bring him fruit, not leaves.